Hey, everybody, it's Christian Buckley doing another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm talking today with Tootie. Hello.
Hi, Christian. Thanks for having me.
It's great to do a mixture of brand new MVPs and then seasoned MVPs that have been around the system for a while. You've been in a couple more years than me, but Tootie, for folks that don't know you, who are you, where are you, and what do you do?
Tudor Damian. I'm from a little place called Transylvania in Romania. It's easier to just mention Transylvania. People just get a better reference. They still don't know where that is exactly, but at least they heard of it. I've been in IT for a little over 20 years. Been around computers since I was a kid, doing mostly stuff around networking and computer related kind of security config and stuff like that. That's how I was the kid that reinstalled Windows on everybody's computers in the extended family, like the relative that kind of knew computers, right? So I obviously got into computer science early on and uh, did a whole bunch of stuff around, like I said, infrastructure, networking, cloud, and cybersecurity in the past 10 plus years.
That's very cool. And what's your MVP in?
So I started off as a Hyper-V MVP, and it's now
Right.
cloud and data center management.
I know how
Falls under that
Microsoft moves
umbrella.
the buckets around a little bit there, but
Yeah.
well, that's interesting. So I know some people that were in that came up through the desktop support ranks, which kind of like it sounds like the same story. Like they were fixing and building PCs. I've got a brother that does that. Like he's not an engineer; he's actually a contractor. He builds homes. He does construction, home construction, and yet he was building PCs and got really good at it, made some connections, started doing deals, helping set up businesses, running wires back when we used to run wires for
Yeah.
phone systems and other things. But a lot of people that in that space that kind of found themselves in the DevOps space kind of went that direction. But others, and I worked in an early SaaS a startup back in 2001 that went into the cloud and data center side of things. Of so kind of went that route as well. So I think it's a great path for folks that don't come up through the traditional engineering routes, but are more on the DevOps side. There's tons of opportunity in that space as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, very cool. So I know it's been a long time, it's been a while, but what was your journey to becoming an MVP? I mean, you've been in the space doing stuff for a long time, but specifically around the program, how did you hear about it? How did you get involved, go after it?
Well, it actually all started back in my university days. Back then, they used to have what was then called the Microsoft Academic Program. It's now like student ambassadors. It
Mhm.
got renamed over the years. It got rebranded. But year one, when I got into university, I saw this announcement that, hey, we're looking for people who are into Windows and Microsoft stuff, and they know it's either Windows or .NET or MS SQL Server, something along those lines, because we're trying to start up this academic program here in the local university. And as it happened back then, I was actually working for a US based company doing web development on ASP.NET 1.1. It was back then on a Windows 2000 server with the MS SQL 2000. And they had sent in a server here to us in Romania doing development. So I was kind of managing that server as well. So when I went in with my roommate at the time back in university, and we told them, so we actually know all of these things. And they were like, what year are you guys? Like, year one. These were not things that were taught in school.
Yeah.
So we were already kind of doing those things. I shortly got to be in charge of the local academic program in my university, and did that throughout all of the years that I spent in university, and then that was kind of the stepping stone towards the MVP program. That got me in direct contact with the local Microsoft subsidiary, and back then they used to do these gatherings once a year where they brought the local MVPs and RDs as well as the top students in all of the universities in the country. And since I was in charge of the program in my university, I got an early contact with what was back then people in the industry that everyone would look up to, and because they were all like the original MVPs and RDs. That
Hmm.
was many years ago, right? It's like 20 years ago almost. So being in contact with the local Microsoft subsidiary, I and the MVPs, it was fairly straightforward for me to go on that path where once university was done, we kind of stuck together as a group with a bunch of other of my friends, started off an IT community back in the days of forums and online communities. And we used to do a lot of in-person events throughout the country. So running a local IT pro community, a user group, but it was kind of a nationwide user group. Um, then starting to run a local conference, a conference called IT Camp. Ran that for about 10 years here in Transylvania. Got to like 800 people every year, 5 tracks. Got speakers from all over the world, but early days it was mostly the Microsoft ecosystem, so it was an easy step for me to be nominated, to be accepted. I was traveling to the US anyway, with customers and whatnot, so I honestly haven't missed any of the MVP summit since I was brought into the program, except for obviously the years when the pandemic
Pandemic
hit
stuff
and
hits.
there
Yeah, yeah.
were, yeah,
Yep.
there were none, but I attended all of the ones that were in person, and I had a blast doing it. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. The Microsoft academic program, IT pro communities, and being in that space and within that network of people that were kind of part of the program anyway,
Yeah.
is how I got it.
And I'm sure you hear this all the time. I get it all the time. People say, well, how do I become like what can I do? What can I change? Go out and do. And my advice is always like, well, are you currently involved with your local user group? Like that's
Yeah.
the starting place for all of that. I don't know. Like, what's your answer to that? What guidance do you provide to people?
So it depends on what you're already doing. If you want to be an MVP just for the sake of being an MVP and you have to start doing new things, then that's probably not for you, to be honest. If
It's
you're
tough.
already doing something, like you're blogging on tech topics, you're active in local user groups and things like that, you maybe started to write a book on a technical subject, it's important to already align this with an existing interest. I think it's a lot harder if you just strive to, hey, I want to become an MVP, so I'll start today.
Mhm.
It's like, hey, this MVP thing sounds cool. I've been doing these things for years, so it makes sense to try and apply. That's what I would consider a more appropriate route, a more natural path to becoming an MVP. You shouldn't force it, because then it would kind of go against what the MVP program is all about.
Right. I I say the same thing. I mean, obviously there are people that may not now be blogging, may not now be creating videos and doing other things. You can always start, but you have to be
Of
honest with
course.
yourself. Like if you're like, hey, like this is awesome. I love this. Great. If you
Exactly.
can develop those healthy habits, and if that
And
helps the
not
process.
only that, but look at this as kind of a long-term thing, because if you just started blogging, it's unrealistic to expect you to get nominated 3 months from now. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be like a year, 2 years down the road of consistent activity that you've been putting under your belt, and you have to do this because you like it and you want to do it, not because it's the path to the MVP program.
Well, I've provided this advice. So years ago, when I had my first consulting company, uh, I would go and I would partner with a lot of our clients came through. I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, through our attorney who taught over at the business school at UC Berkeley, and Stanford was right there. We had a number of clients come through the Berkeley, Stanford, and Santa Clara as well, but university system. And that's how we make a lot of connections through these startup programs and things that were going on. Uh, Occasionally would go and speak to student groups that were and say, well, what are the opportunities that are out there? And I'm a business degree, master's of my MBA, like I'm come from that side of things, but I've been in technology my entire career. And one of the things that I tell everyone, I told my 4 kids, I wish they had followed the advice. They didn't. But I said, when you figure out your path, no matter what industry you want to go into, but certainly in tech space, this is true. Start documenting it, blogging it, writing about it, capturing it, creating videos about what you're learning. You're not an expert on anything yet, but start documenting the path in that. And I said, if you get to the end of 4 years of university or 5 years of university, whatever it is, and you have then 4 or 5 years of documented your path, even if you're doing a blog post a month on your path there, like you have dozens
Yeah.
now of this path, this learning path around that. It is a competitive advantage against all of those other new grads looking for jobs to say, look what I've learned, look what I've shared, this is what I've developed, here's how I thought through these things. And like I've got 2 kids that are STEM kids that are, on the hard sciences. And I said this exact same thing. And one of my sons started blogging. I'm like, yes. And he wrote, I think 3 times, you know,
And then, yeah,
and but that's something that I advise a lot of people, like, get started now. I guess it's like investing. It's the compound interest over time that makes the biggest difference. It's the same thing with getting your foot in the door with content creation somewhere out there. Find a place. Even if it's answering questions on forums, get your profiles built, start doing that now. And as you learn and interact with people, you're going to make other connections. It's going to benefit you later.
yeah, totally. But I think that's a lot harder to do nowadays for the younger generations. I think they have a lot of trouble like getting started on something like that. They want the easy way out, the quick route. Like, what do I have to do to not have to do this? Like,
Yeah. Well,
and
you
and
can create those under 3-minute shorts
yeah,
and
I mean,
and
and
yeah,
it could be the thing. It could be that one thing that helps you get to where you want to be, but you still have to start somewhere.
yeah,
And that learning paths, and I do think that's great advice. Like documenting your learning path. That's really good.
yeah.
Really well put.
I can't remember what the saying is, but it's like, when's the best time to plant a tree? Like right now? Like
Yeah,
anytime? It's like, but you have to start.
exactly.
You can't just, I
You
guess
have to start
technically
somewhere.
you could go and buy a mature tree and put that in, but it's very expensive to do that. And then, whether it takes, whether it, adapts to the ground, it could still die. So I'm just figuring where I'm going to go with that analogy. But yeah. So what else? What are like the hot topics right now? What are you most passionate about?
So recent years, it's mostly been stuff around cybersecurity, AI, and quantum, and how that affects cybersecurity. That's been part of the like even the topic rotation at the conferences that I get invited to speak at. So it's mostly helping people get the best out of whatever's being thrown at them and figuring out what they can do better in terms of securing their personal devices, their data, and it's both on a personal level and on like the company level. So whatever I can do to help bring some awareness into the mix and to help show people that it's not just rainbows and unicorns when it comes to AI and cyber and quantum computing and things like that. So it's just all about raising awareness. It's just a shifting topic over the years, but the raising awareness part is something that I've always been into.
Yeah, I think people really want, especially AI and quantum. I like we're just beginning the
Yep.
discussion around that, but they want to know the real world stories and the impacts around there. It's that's one criticism I have of Microsoft, that I mean, they're it's a sales and marketing focused company, but that, like, Ignite, and used to be more of an implementation. It was more of a focus on, then here's how we did it, here's what we experienced, here's what didn't
Yep.
work and what we did, like that kind of thing. And it's become much more front loaded marketing, just here's the features, here's the benefits, without the
Now,
rest of that.
since you're part of the old guard, I can't help but think of the old tech ed events,
Yep.
stuff like that, which for me was how I got into the whole large event scene, like going to Barcelona and other locations around Europe where you could see those 15, 20, 30,000 people attending one event. And that was
Yeah.
mind blowing for a younger me back then, right?
Yeah.
And that's also I think what helped guide the way we built our own events and all of the events that I've been a part of in the on the organizing side of the years. Uh, Trying to build an event in the way you would like it to be. Like, would I like to attend this event as a speaker, as an attendee, as a sponsor, as whatever? Would I enjoy this event, and what does it take to make it worthwhile? And try to take some of those sales pitches out and bring more valuable technical content in. So yeah, I'm with you on the whole trend of kind of putting everything into a sales or marketing pitch instead of a technical thing, and that's I think with both Ignite and Build in
Yeah.
recent years, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm also, being again on the business side of things. Inspire in July, that was used to be the Worldwide Partner Conference.
Yep,
Yeah, I'm
been to a
sad that
few of those
they
as well. Yeah,
I don't know what they're doing with it. It didn't happen in July this last year.
yeah,
They folded it. They attempted to bring it in with Ignite, which didn't make sense to
that
me.
yeah,
I think it decreased the value. You're not going to get the sales and marketing people there, like where we want to have the marketing side of it, but then have the depth of the the business discussions around each of those things, like that. It made sense to have that separation, but
exactly. And again, I've been to a few of those back in Vegas before the pandemic. In the years before the pandemic, I was actually a partner in a local MSP that got Partner of the Year
oh,
here in Romania.
congrats.
So one of the trips to Ignite was uh, with the getting the award and getting to the award ceremony.
Yeah,
So
I was a
that's
10-year in a
pretty cool.
row Inspire attendee, or
Oh wow,
WPP. So it was, and then before pandemic, and now it's just kind of
yeah.
a broken model. But no, I was thinking too, like the last tech ed that I went to in Europe was the one in Berlin. So I don't know what year that was, but it was massive.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
think that was one of the last ones.
yeah, but yeah, those are good times, those old days. Those. Well, very cool. Well, and I know that there's a, with your experience, of course, I'll have the contact information for you out there. I do always like to ask people, want to reach out and connect with you, Tootie, like where are you most active in social? Where can people find you?
I think nowadays it must be LinkedIn. I've kind of moved away from the likes of formerly Twitter and other platforms. So my contact details are on my website. It's 2d.ro. and that's where you can find me. Mostly, I'm though involved in local user group activities and local and national events. I do travel quite a bit to events around, mostly around Europe, um, and that's what I kind of tend to focus the little spare time that I have left.
Well, hopefully maybe I'll see you in Redmond here in a couple weeks. I know,
Oh,
but by the time
definitely.
this goes
Yep.
live after that's happened, but
Yep.
maybe there will be the selfies floating around out
Yeah,
there
looking
together.
forward for that 24-hour door-to-door travel time that we get from here.
It sounds great.
It's
I have a
amazing.
3-hour flight. I was already complaining about that. So,
Yeah, so my longest flight is a little over 12 hours. So yeah, but at least I have my travel buddy with me, a fellow MVP that I've been doing this with for a number of years now. So
well, you have to fly if for MVPs that are coming to the MVP Summit, the annual summit at Microsoft headquarters, you have to be branded because you never know who's on that plane, and you'll probably
oh,
meet
it's like you
MVPs
can easily tell. Like for any
usually.
inbound flights, I try to avoid connecting flights within the US. I always try to fly straight to Seattle, so there's very few options from Europe. But those few options, you can easily tell who's an MVP and who's not, because you get like direct flights from, I don't know, London, Frankfurt, Istanbul, or Paris, Amsterdam. That's about it.
So I'm
Um,
a
yeah.
13 time, hopefully now 14 time here. We'll know in a few months, but in a couple months here. One of the things I've had about half a dozen times where I've been in an airport somewhere in the world and recognize somebody or somebody's like, "Hey, Christian," like you know, no idea. It's a so that's a cool thing about being part of the
Yeah.
community as well and meeting these people and yeah, love that
True.
aspect of course, Microsoft people as well, and we're all usually branded so we can identify each other, but
Fair point.
so all right, well, hey, well, Tootie, great talking to you, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to that, and we'll catch up once we're there in Seattle.